Running gives me a number of things. Keeps me fit, time to think, that phenomenal runner's high, the endorphin rush. I do it very early in the morning, and once it's in the bank, no one can take it away from you. I originally started doing a lot of boxing, started doing some running, and then a friend of mine suggested, why don't you do a marathon? Went did a marathon, and then the next thing he suggested was, why don't you do an ultra marathon? So I've done quite a few ultra marathons. You tick those off and you look at what the pinnacle, and it is the MDS. The Marathon des Sables is known as the world's toughest foot race. It's tougher than a regular ultra marathon because the constant getting up, doing it the next day. It's a multi-stage race, self-supported. The only thing that the race director gives you is a small bag of salt tablets and water at checkpoints. I said to my eldest son, George, who was 17 at the time, do you fancy doing this?
I think it was more just a spur of the moment because obviously I've grown up with him doing ultras all the time. Most I'd run was probably about 10 miles. Definitely didn't understand the gravity of what I was signing up for when I did sign up for it. My mum said to my dad, if he doesn't come home, don't bother coming home.
One of the best days was the toughest day, which was when the sandstorm was coming in, and it was just a case of just head down and just keep going. George and I did that together. We crossed the finish line on that stage together.
Great experience actually going somewhere as remote as the desert.
The other tough part was when George, my son, got injured.
It was about mile 9 in, obviously for the 52, and I started to feel this pain in my hip, but it soon went away, and then another pain sprang up in my groin. So I thought, oh, okay, it'll go away like the hip one, but it didn't. It just kept on getting worse and worse. My legs gave way almost. They could not support my weight anymore. It was horrible. Horrible having to drop out.
It was all about the planning. So I'd already planned specifically for that eventuality. So I knew that if he got injured or for some reason he didn't make it through the race, he would be taken in a cab for 6 or 7 hours to this town on the edge of the desert where we would all join him later on.
And it turned out I'd fractured my pelvis on both sides. I'm glad I didn't go on, because even if I'd gotten to the end of the long day, I wouldn't have been able to do the last day with that sort of injury. And if I had gone on, who knows where I'd be right now. I could be in a wheelchair.
The prize at the end of saying that you've completed the toughest foot race on earth, that's what drives you forward. There's one thing that kept on playing over in my head, or a couple of things. One foot in front of the other, and the other mantra that I would have is, this too shall pass. There was no way I was going to fail, and that's not, me saying, oh, look at me kind of thing. If you look at certainly the customer base that I work in, they do tend to be quite long sales cycles. It comes back to, again, put a plan together, execute on the plan, celebrate the small wins, celebrate the successful POC, celebrate reaching that, that level of the C-suite, celebrate, getting on that framework, etc. Just as you would celebrate completion of day 1, completion of day 2, making that checkpoint. And just enjoy the journey, put the plan together, execute on the plan. Fingers crossed the results are there at the end.